Welcome to Country Basket Weaving. I'm your hostess, Sandy Atkinson, and the basket I've chosen to work on today is our Twill tote basket. The cut and material pattern for this basket is as follows. You will need 5/8 inch flat, cut 16 pieces 32 inches long and 8 pieces 38 inches long. You'll also need 1/2 inch flat, and from this cut 2 pieces that are 60 inches long, and if this is dyed, it'll work into the basket quite nicely. You also need 3/8 inch flat, those will be your weavers. You need 1/2 inch flat oval and 4mm cane or 1/4 inch flat. Seagrass is another item that we can put into the basket. I've already taken my long pieces and laid them out. I've marked the centers on the wrong side. All my centers are facing up. And I also want you to take your tape measure on the first piece over here and measure out 6 inches from the center going up and put a mark up here. Let me bring this down a little bit so you can see it. I have my 6-inch mark up here. That's where we're going to begin our weaving. Taking your next piece, these will be your shorter pieces, you're going to weave the first one over 1, under 2, over 2, under 2, and then over 1. And draw up your center. It'll be 4 on each side, and have this mark right here on the edge of your first piece. Your second piece is going to weave over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2. And again, line up your centers. I'm not going to worry about spacing. This basket's nice. It does all the spacing for you. You don't need any type of a measure. Your third row is under 1, over 2, under 2, over 2, under 1. And line up your middles and draw it up. Next row is under 2, over 2, under 2, and over 2. Make sure that your center marks all line up. Your wrong side should be up. Now your next piece is your handle piece. So the 5th piece that you weave in is going to be that long piece. That is going to be your handle. Mark the center. And your handle piece is going to weave over 1, under 2, over 2, under 2, over 1. And draw it up. I have a dark purple here. It's hard to find the middle. There it is. My pencil mark didn't show on there. Now go back to your natural colored pieces. The next piece is going to go over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2. This pattern is going to be repeating itself now. We can draw these in a little bit. The next one, we're going back. If you look back here on your pattern up here, we're starting to repeat it. So the next one would be under 1, over 2, under 2, over 2, under 1. I'm going to speed up a little bit here. Next one is under 2, over 2, under 2, over 2. Coming back here, our next one, if you get confused, simply come back here. We're going to be over 1, over 2, under 2, over 1. Now we're over 2, under 2, over 2. And back here now we're going to be under again, under 1, over 2, under 2, over 2, under 1. I'm just repeating the pattern. Under 2. The 14th piece that we put in has to be our handle piece again. There's 12. I need one more piece, and then my handle piece will go in, and I'm over 1 again. Under 2, over 2, under 2, under 1. Or pardon me, over 1. Now my 14th piece is my handle piece. That's my long piece again. And it's going to weave over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2. And line up your centers. 4 more pieces to go in, and then we have our base laid out. And I'm back to under 1. Over 2, under 2, over 2, under 1. I'm just repeating the pattern over and over. Now I'm under 2. My next row is over 1, under 2, over 2, under 2. One more piece and my base is laid out, and I'm going to be over 2. Now we can come in here and draw out these pieces. We'll remove our spoke weight, we don't need that. Draw our pieces together. This is how it's spacing itself. We don't even have to worry about any measurement on here. Now you can see that twill pattern. You see the twill pattern in here? Now we need to upset our basket. Come in here and use your thumb and bend these up. They all have to be bent up. Go ahead and clamp your 4 corner pieces. You need to bend up all the others. Give a good bend on them. That'll make that first row of weaving up the sides go much easier. And again, we're going to clamp our 4 corners here. Whoops. Got away from me. Bend these up. There is no way that we can match the sides to the bottom. There's just no way to ever work that out. So we're just going to go up the sides and start the pattern again. This is where you're going to need your 3/8 flat for your weavers. And I'll come in and get a piece of that. I'm going to replace this big clamp with a clothespin. I use a lot of clothespins. Now with our 3/8 flat, make sure you have the right side facing out. We're going to start anywhere on the side. Go under 2, go to your left so that you're on top of 2 over here. Go ahead and clamp it down so it'll stay. We're going over and under 2. Take off your corner. This is going to look very sloppy. There is just no way to hold this row down yet. Watch your corners. It's real easy to go over just 1 or pick up 3 and do the wrong pattern. So watch your corners when you go around them. It's just over 2, under 2 pattern at this point. Undo our corners. There's no way that we can make this, as I said earlier, match. Okay, I'm over 2, but I need to come back here and make sure that I'm under 2 over here. There's no twining in here to hold this down either, so. And I have to be over 2 here. If you're going to get confused, it's probably going to be at the corners here. Over 2. No, I need to be under these 2 next. Don't forget your little handle piece in here. That's counted as a spoke. Weaving this over and under 2 all the way around. Come back and put your corners back on. We're going to need to leave them on for 3 or 4 rows. Come back here, almost around my last corner. Don't be afraid to bend these down. They should be good and wet for you. Under 2. Put my corner back on. And I'm over 2 and under 2 here. Now when you come back around here, if you haven't made a mistake again, you'll be back onto the same pattern that you started with. You need to overlap 4 but I want you to, you'll really be overlapping 8 because now these are considered in 2s. Go to the farthest that you can cut it, and that end is going to hide behind those 2 pieces there. And go ahead and put a clamp on it too. Now I'm going to turn the basket around so that I don't have a buildup and it doesn't get bulky in there, and I'm going to start my next row over here. Now this is where you need to pay attention because we need to start developing this twill pattern. This is where I started before, okay? I mean, these are 2 over, is what I meant to say. I'm 2 over here. Taking the one to the left, I'm going to go behind that one with my weaver and the one next to it. This will be these 2 here, happens to be a handle piece. You can see the dark purple. That's going to be my 2 over. Come in here and clamp this down. Now, ignore the first pattern and just weave this over and under 2, following your new pattern. So I'm going to be over and under 2 all the way around this one. Again, we have to leave our corners up here. Be real careful you don't pull your corners too tight. A lot of people have a tendency to do that too. Make sure you give ample room here, but don't give too much because we don't want it to be real loose either. And I always should, a way to check this, I should always be ahead 1 on my twill pattern. If it's not fitting in there, for some reason, you've probably made a mistake because it should work itself very nicely, not be real difficult to do over 2, under 2. And if you're fighting with it, you've probably made a mistake. You've probably gone over 3 or under 1 or something and messed your pattern up, so you need to go back and correct it. Like I did just here, okay? Take your corners off and go around them. And come back and put your corner back on. Has to hold everything together for another row or 2 here. If you put a stain over this basket, these dyed pieces will look antique and they're really pretty. So don't be afraid to stain over your dyed reed. Coming in here. Now I'm back on the same pattern that I started with. So I'm going to overlap 4, which in this case is really 8 because we're doing a double over 2, under 2 pattern. Cut at the farthest possible length and hide your end under there. And go ahead and clamp that back up so we can flip it over again and start our next row here. I'd like to do a couple more rows so you can really get this pattern and you can really see what you're creating here. So let's put in some dark colored reed and you can see it even better. Okay, these are the 2 from my last row. I'm coming 1 over to the left, picking up its neighbor to the left and going under those 2 pieces, and make sure that I'm over the next 2 on the left of that yet. Clamp that down. Go back to your over 2, under 2. Now pull these pieces down as you work. Start packing them in tight. Now that we've got this 3rd row, it's going to start holding itself in a little better. We may even be able to leave the corners off. Let's see how they fit when I get around it. If in doubt, go ahead and put the corners back up for 1 more row. Give this a turn. Over 2, under 2. I don't know if I mentioned it in past films or not, but when you dye your reed, be sure and set it, even if the directions, they don't mention it at all. Be sure and set it with either a cup of vinegar or a handful of salt in cold water. I'm going to clamp this corner back up. Under 2, over 2, start packing these rows in. We want them packed in nice and tight. I'm going to speed up just a little bit. Use lots of clothespins. Don't be afraid to hold things down. There are extra fingers. This around. Almost finished with this third row, and I think this dyed reed will help you see that twill pattern real well. Don't be afraid to create a pattern using different colored reeds. I like lots of colors. I'm overlapping my 8, coming over here and clipping it and cutting it off. Now I'm going to put in another row of the dyed. This time I'll be able to leave off my corners for sure. That'll help. This is my last row. Coming over and picking up this end one here on the left and the next one, I'm going behind it. Making sure that I'm over on the top here. And I'm going to continue that pattern right around, over and under. As I work this time, I want to watch my spokes, make sure that they're straight up and down. Start packing my reed in. I'm going to come back here and clamp this. And we'll work this row around quickly. Pulling these down. Over 2, under 2. If you like, go ahead and do all your spokes in the natural and do your weavers all in a colored or a dyed reed. I think you'll find that to be a beautiful pattern too. Get creative. Don't just follow my pattern. Try something on your own and get creative here. Almost around to the other side. Like I say, if you're fighting it in any way, go back and check your pattern. You're probably off because it really does lay down within itself nicely when you're right on that pattern. Now I'm overlapping here. There, now you should be able to see that twill going up the side. Can you see that? I'm going to switch to another basket I've already worked up the side, and you'll be able to see the twill quite nicely on here. You can see the pattern. I've added more colors in here. You can see this twill going right up the sides of the basket. After you go up to the top and you have approximately 2.5, 3 inches left on top, I'll also give you a height measurement here. About 10 inches high is what you need to be. You're going to clip and trim and tuck all these top of the spokes that are left. Just simply bend them over, come inside. You'll need your flathead. We're going to skip over our first row of weaving. I'm going to cut some of this length off because I don't need it all. And I'm going to come in here and pick up these weavers and tuck this in down in here, like so. We're going to have 2 that tuck together and 2 that are cut off together. I'm going to cut off those 2. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to cut off these. If the weaver goes in front of the spokes, they get cut off. If the weaver goes behind, they get bent down and tucked. When you're working this pattern, make sure you don't cut off your handle pieces. Regardless if they go in or out, don't tuck them, don't cut them off. Leave them just dangling out. I think you'll be upset with yourself if you do that. Let me get this piece out of the way. We need to come in here and cut off some of this length. I don't quite need the whole length under there. Use your flathead screwdriver and pick up those weavers and push your spoke in down there. Should fit in there nice and flat. Remember, you have 2 together here. You'll be cutting off 2 and tucking 2 together. Now we're going to need to tuck in our handle pieces. What I want you to do is come around here and bring this one over so it loops like this, and this is my right side of my reed. It's going to sneak right down and tuck right next to my other handle piece on the other side. And we're going to hide it right down under there in a weaver. Make sure your 2 handles are the same height. Bring the other one behind, and it's going to tuck down in behind here. and they should be the same height. Put a clothespin on up here. Get them the same height. I'm going to the inside and see if I can't hide this end right here underneath one of these weavers. We don't want any ends sticking out, so I'm going to just tuck it down in there a little ways. We can do our handle wrap now, or we can go ahead. I'm going to put the lashing on next. I'm going to put the rim and the lashing. We'll do right after. I like to start with a flat end here. Remember, this is our flat oval piece. We need to come in here and trim off about 2 inches. 2.5 inches, somewhere in there. Whittle that down so that we have a flat edge on both. I'm going to start let's start over here on the side. And we're going to clamp this in. Use your clothespins and work your way around. That's a handle wrap I want to show you in a minute. You probably won't have yours here at this point. We're going to overlap. Where you started your whittling is where you're going to come in here and cut this one off. We need to do the very same thing on the inside, and we need to whittle this down the same amount, about 2.5 inches. Starting on the opposite side, I'm going to start over here now, and I'm going to lay this one on the inside of the basket. Work it around. Remember, the flat side lays next to the basket. Come in here and let it overlap itself, and then just simply trim it off. Okay, I like to lay in a piece of seagrass or number 6 round or something in here to cover up all this, the spoke tops, and so I like to lay in my seagrass. That's what I'm going to do real quickly. Now, with a piece of caning, that's a short piece. Let's get a little bit longer piece. You need a long piece. We're going to go around the basket. Let's put a point on here. Come inside the basket. We have a rim, the basket, and the rim. I'm going to stay away from my overlap, so I'm going to work right in here, and I'm coming up in between here about 5 or 6 inches from the bottom up. Loop it over and tuck it down in between your rim and basket on the outside. I'm going to come over here using your knitting needle or your screwdriver. You're going to open these weavers up and go under there. There should be 1 row of weaving underneath your rim. I'm going to do the very same thing again. I'm coming up from the bottom, circling around, and this time I'm going to leave my little tail on the outside. Bringing this over here now, the right side of my reed is out. I want to be sure and catch my seagrass in there. Straighten this out, take out any knots, any twist. Come down here and put another point on this end so it'll travel for you. You're going to be skipping over 2. I'm going to use my knitting needle. It has a nice point so I can get in between here. Skip over 2. And your weaver is going to go right in there and bring it around. Now I want to catch this handle in. I'm going to X out my handle. That'll just help it stay in place. I'm going to start my new end over here, come back and pull this end. I do this so that I don't have to go through a straightening out process each time with it. Come back and pull it tight. Give it a yank. And let's cross this handle. We're going to have to pull this one all the way through. I'm going to X out our handle. Oh, am I tangled over here? There we go. I can't start my end here because I want to X out each one of my handles. So I'm going to bring this one across, come through here, put my X, backtrack and go in the hole, and keep right on going around. You're going to end it the very same way that you started it. But I really want to get in this handle wrap, so we're going to have to move to that real quickly here. I'm going to go to the other side. What I have here is, I like to show some of my pink. So I'm going to start my handle wrap about 1.5 inches, 2 inches up. And we simply lay the right side of your reed facing the basket. I'm using caning. You could also use your 1/4 inch flat if you like, but caning is so nice. Come around here. And my right side faces my basket. I do what I call a miter. Bring it around here. I want these to butt up to each other but not overlap. And as I do this wrapping, it's catching that tail as I go up. I'll do a few wraps for you. See how they lay in there so nice? I can remove my clothespin. Go ahead and wrap it around to the other side. I'm going to the other side now, and I'll show you how to end it. Let me get all this out of the way. This is my lashing, remember. That won't be there. You will have finished that already. Let me tuck mine out of the way. I'm coming over to this side. I have wrapped down the equal distance, so I have the amount of pink showing here. You could also wrap all the way down if you wanted to. I just like the pink to show. I have a lot of length left that I don't need. Come and give yourself about 6 or 8 inches, somewhere in there. Come back up here and insert this in flat against the handle piece. Unloosen it. You need to go up at least 4 to secure it in there. Work it around, unloosen it. Take this end and give it a pull. Now with your thumb and finger, come back here and tighten this down. And again, don't overlap, just butt them right up to each other. Come back here and give this a pull. Work it around till you have it in there securely. Make sure there's no loose reed. Work it around again and give it a pull. Then come in here with your scissors and just as close as you can get in there and snip that off, and you won't even see that end at all. And that's how you wrap a handle. Go ahead, I need to finish my lashing around here, but for time's sake, we can't do that. The basket we'll be working on next time is our wine tote. I have a design put in it. Not in this one I don't, but I have a design in the handle. Inside we have some crisscrosses to separate your bottles. I think you'll enjoy working on this one too. Thanks for being with us.